Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a governor who has refused to take the coronavirus pandemic seriously, who has been against mask mandates and vaccine mandates, is now pleading with the federal government for resources to deal with the spiking numbers of new COVID cases in his state. In a press release put out by his office, Governor Greg Abbott announced today that the state of Texas has requested resources for federally supported testing locations and medical personnel and additional federal allocations of monoclonal antibodies. Now, the monoclonal antibodies is really the heart of this story, and if you're paying any attention to the narrative coming from right-wing governors, they would have you believe that the evil Biden administration is withholding monoclonal antibodies from red states. The problem is there is a shortage of that treatment. And if you happen to be a governor that has spread disinformation about the pandemic and has discouraged constituents from getting vaccinated, well, you have now put them in a terrible position. So let me give you more information. Things are not looking good in states like Texas thanks to the rapid spread of the Omicron variant. Luckily, as it appears right now, it's a mild form of coronavirus, but if you're not vaccinated, you really are putting yourself at risk. So Texas on Thursday reported 10,892 new cases, a 26.5% test positivity rate, and over 5,500 COVID-19 hospitalizations. Now, Abbott made sure to throw some heavy accusations against Biden in the same press release asking him for resources. He says detecting COVID-19 and preventing COVID-related hospitalizations are critical to our fight against the virus. Maybe he should have told people to get vaccinated, but he didn't. While the Biden administration has cut supplies of monoclonal antibody treatments and testing kits when they are needed most, the state of Texas is urging the federal government to step up in this fight and provide the resources necessary to help protect Texans. And to be sure, there is also a shortage of tests available. In fact, if you go to most pharmacies looking to get a rapid test, you're gonna be denied because we have run out. We live in a third world country, it's insane. But let's get back to what Abbott says. He says testing sites, additional medical staff, and continued shipments of therapeutics from the federal government will help us continue to save lives and mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Now, in reality, as I mentioned, there is a shortage of monoclonal antibody treatments for Americans. And unfortunately, what the Biden administration noticed was that there were just 7 states that were hoarding the vast majority of the treatments available. As one doctor wrote in Forbes, unfortunately, the country is facing a shortage of monoclonal antibodies, MAB treatments. Just like every other tangible product, MABs have their own supply chain constraints, and only increased resource allocation and investment in manufacturing infrastructure can resolve this issue. The Biden administration took over distribution of the critical COVID-19 therapy back in September. At that time, 7 states, just 7 states, were using 70% of the nation's supply. Biden vowed to ramp up production, but also to even out distribution to give all states equal access. And Cenk, are you curious which 7 states were hoarding 70% of the monoclonal antibody treatments?
Anna, there's one thing I know for sure. It's got to be the blue states, okay?
Well, yeah.
Because I'm positive of it, and I know that the red states care about all the rest of us, and they're overflowing with empathy, and so I know they wouldn't be hoarders. And besides which, is COVID real anyway? It's just like a common flu that affects fat people. So I know it wouldn't be red states. They wouldn't be concerned at all.
Well, you might be right if a bunch of Democratic voters suddenly moved in masses to states like Alabama, Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, and Louisiana. So
who would have figured?
They create, listen, obviously I want every state to get the help that they need, okay? Regardless of whether it's a blue state, red state, I want people to live, I want to save lives. That's the relevant takeaway, right? But at the end of the day, we're working against elected officials who are literally doling out all sorts of disinformation because they decided to turn a pandemic into a culture war issue at the expense of their own constituents.
Yeah, so look, if I was Biden, of course I would handle things differently. So would I deny Abbott? I'd think about it, because They do it to us. So when Trump was in office, he constantly warned about denying things, and sometimes did to New York, New Jersey, any blue state who dared to defy him, right? And did he care about their well-being? And oh my God, they're also citizens? Of course not. He didn't care at all. And there's a disproportionate reaction here in America because since the left is filled generally with decent people, our heart goes out to the red states and we always help. That's why the red states are the biggest takers from the federal government. We did a story about this at the end of last week, and almost all of the big taker states, you're not supposed to use welfare queen when talking about Republicans or anyone else apparently, but whatever is the equivalent of that for Republicans, give me government money, I love big government, big government, like slobbering all over. That's red states. That's all red states. They take from the rest while pretending that they don't want government help or handouts. Now, but I still wouldn't deny him because I'm a soft-hearted lib, right? But what I would say ahead of time is, now, don't worry, the state of Texas, we will not be using the fact that you are run by a village idiot against you. Your governor talked about, in regards to COVID, quote, federal government overreach. Now he's begging me for help. Now that's weird because I thought we were overreaching, Governor Abbott. I thought we were overreaching. Now it looks like you're accusing us of underreaching. Oh, you haven't given me enough, you haven't given me enough. Well, look, you need more because you were one of the idiots who told all your voters and all your citizens to be hesitant about the vaccine. And you didn't push it, And now they're filling up hospitals, and now you come crying to me. But don't worry, I would normally, under different circumstances, demand an apology from Abbott before I gave whatever he was begging for. But I'm merciful and I care about each citizen, so I will actually give Texas what they need, despite the fact that Greg Abbott has not apologized for being an idiot and earlier saying the government was too large, and now saying the federal government is too little and is not helping enough.
And look, believe me, there's plenty of criticism for Joe Biden in this story as well. Because if you go to, let's say, the UK, and you need to obtain a test to see whether or not you have coronavirus, it is not a huge hassle, it is not an obstacle, and you get those tests for free, easily. Whereas in the United States right now, most people can't get access to a rapid test. Let's say you suspect that you might have contracted coronavirus because of some holiday get together or something like that, but you need to get back to work. You need to take a test before you can get back. It's nearly impossible in most parts of the country right now. And by the way, in regard to Biden, Abbott in this press release both asks for federal resources and also simultaneously just lies about how Biden is allegedly withholding monoclonal antibody treatments, even though there's a shortage and he knows there's a shortage. Okay, the reason
he's hoarded.
And he's been hoarding it, much like the other states that I listed. And Biden, you think Biden is gonna, be upset about that or demand an apology for that? No, Abbott does it because he knows he can. Because he knows that Biden is not gonna fight back in any way. Yeah. Again, I want any resource that is available should be given to Texas because I don't want Texans to suffer as a result of the stupidity coming from someone like Greg Abbott. But at the end of the day, the reason why Republicans do what they do is because weak Democrats like Biden allow them to do what they do.
100%. So last two fun things here. Look, Anna's 100% right about the Biden weakness. So that's an open-handed slap from Abbott.
Exactly.
He slaps Biden across the face and then he says, now give me whatever the hell I want. And you know what Biden's response is gonna be. It's not gonna be any of the tough talk. It's not gonna be 5%, 1% of the tough talk I said earlier. Instead, Biden's gonna go, okay, I'm sorry. Everybody watching this knows it. If you're a corporate Democrat and you're like, this is outrageous, they shouldn't be allowed to say that about Biden. Do you disagree? No, I mean, it's true, but they shouldn't be allowed to say it. Oh, that's what I thought. Okay, yep. And so now the last thing is, look guys, there's a difference between the voters and the leaders in the right wing. And I did a video about this during the weekend. Talked to my friend of mine from Tennessee, and I asked him, what are they thinking, right? Because we keep saying they're crazy, they can't all be crazy, right? So, and the bottom line is they don't trust the big drug companies. Isn't that interesting? It's not that they don't believe in COVID. This is not, you can't speak for everybody, but this is generally speaking, right? From his experience surrounded by an ocean of right wingers. The number one problem is they just don't believe the big drug companies because they've been lied to 1,000 times. And he said, this is Appalachia where he lives. And what did they tell us about OxyContin? They told us it was fine, big media did it, government did it, and then did anybody go to jail? Nobody went to jail, etc. right? So if you're a voter and you got that skepticism towards big business, it has been enormously well merited by both the business community and the politicians and the media that serve them. So I understand that. But if you're a leader like Greg Abbott, and you full well know what 99.9% of doctors say and what scientists say, and you know how serious it is, and you know the misinformation is killing your own voters and your own constituents, that's a totally different ballgame. Then I'm happy to call him an idiot, a terrible person. He's like, if you believe in evil, Greg Abbott is definitely evil. I mean, how many people has he killed in Texas through the privatization, the deregulation, and now COVID? All for his own political gain. If that ain't evil, I don't know what is. So screw Greg Abbott and the horse he rode in on. Yes, of course, Texas will get what they want because decent people are in charge, but it would be wonderful if the decent people were also strong.
As Mr. Unknown, one of our viewers writes, the bottom of the screen, Biden should send Greg Abbott bootstraps. I mean, obviously we don't really want that to happen, but it's a funny retort. Because that's what conservatives spew over and over again as our fellow Americans are struggling, whether they're living on the streets, dying on the streets, it doesn't matter, right? And it sucks because it does feel like we're in this abusive relationship with some of our fellow Americans who don't see us as people, who don't see us as humans, and love to take. And as soon as we need people to work together to save lives, they'll give you the middle finger and tell you to F off. It's incredibly frustrating.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.